Whenever you hear Morgan Freeman's name, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably that deep, soothing voice, right? This man, known as the voice of God, is one of Hollywood's most respected actors. But the story I'm about to tell you reveals the truth he's been hiding behind that image. Fall of 1987, a small film studio in Memphis, Tennessee. Morgan Freeman doesn't yet have the fame he has today. He's 50 years old, an experienced theater actor from Broadway. At the time, roles for black actors in Hollywood were extremely limited, and Morgan was trying to land a role in a very important project. The film was called Driving Miss Daisy. This production, now known as a classic, was then a small-budget independent project. Morgan's role was Hoke Colburn, an elderly white woman's chauffeur. This seemingly ordinary role actually required an extremely delicate balance, because in the 1980s, playing such a character was a big risk. A black actor playing the role of a white family's servant could cause social backlash. Some critics might view it as reinforcing stereotypes. Morgan knew this, but he saw something different in this role. A chance to play Hoke, not just as a chauffeur, but as a dignified, intelligent, strong human being. An opportunity to bring his own soul to the character. And here came that critical decision. Before filming began, they had a long meeting with director Bruce Beresford. In this meeting, Morgan made a very important request. He would play Hoke's character differently than it was written. In the script, Hoke is written as a constantly head-bowing, humble man. Morgan said in that meeting, "But I'm going to play him differently. He's a human being, a dignified human being." The director was initially hesitant, because the character written by screenwriter Alfred Uhry was designed with a more traditional approach. But Morgan insisted, and here the first critical decision was made. "If you want to make this film, you have to let me play Hoke through my eyes," he said. This wasn't just a request. This was an artist's struggle to protect his own values. And the director agreed. Filming began. The first week went quite smoothly. The chemistry between Morgan and Jessica Tandy was wonderful. But at the end of the second week, a scene came that changed everything. The scene was this. Hoke was offering suggestions to Miss Daisy about sitting in the back of the car during a long journey for her comfort. In the script, this scene was written with Hoke's servile attitude, full of constant "yes, ma'am," "certainly, ma'am." Morgan had decided the morning when he came to the set that he would play this scene differently. During rehearsal, the words were exactly the same, but the tone was completely different. Hoke was showing respect to Miss Daisy, but speaking as an equal human being. The director yelled, "Cut!" There was a strange silence on set. "Morgan, can't you play this scene as written in the script?" said Bruce Beresford. Morgan's answer changed everything. "No," he said in a calm voice, "because Hoke isn't that kind of man, and neither am I." This moment was a turning point, not just for that film, but for Morgan Freeman's entire career, because at that moment, he decided not to conform to Hollywood's expected molds. He put his own artistic integrity above potential career opportunities. Studio executives called an emergency meeting. "This actor is causing trouble," they were saying. "He's trying to change the script." Some even suggested replacing Morgan. But something unexpected happened here. Jessica Tandy supported Morgan. "I want to work with this man," said the veteran actress, "and I support his vision. Let him play Hoke as a real human being, not a stereotype." This support changed everything. Because Jessica Tandy was a highly respected, experienced actress in Hollywood, her word carried weight, and filming continued. But now with new rules. Morgan would play Hoke with his own vision. The results were incredible. With each scene, the character deepened more and more. Hoke became not just a chauffeur, but the character carrying the soul of the story. Morgan's acting was creating something beyond the script. But the real challenge was experienced in the film's most emotional scene. The scene where Hoke begins to show signs of Miss Daisy's Alzheimer's In the script, this scene was written with Hoke silently grieving. Morgan, while rehearsing this scene, suddenly stopped. His eyes had welled up, but it wasn't sadness in his eyes. It was anger. "This is wrong," he said. Hoke doesn't suffer silently here. He's genuinely attached to Miss Daisy in this situation. He doesn't stay silent. He speaks. And Morgan completely reinterpreted that scene. Hoke was having a real conversation with Miss Daisy about her illness, human to human, not just an employer-employee relationship. When this scene was shot, everyone on set was crying. Because Morgan's interpretation had brought humanity to the character, Hoke was now not just on screen, but in the audience's heart. The film was finished. Editing was completed. And when it was released, something unexpected happened. Critics especially praised Morgan's performance. A powerful performance that breaks stereotypes, they were saying. But the real surprise was experienced during Oscar season. Morgan was nominated for Best Actor. This was a great achievement for a black actor at the time. On Oscar night, Morgan lost. But that night, the speech he gave when he went on stage explained his artistic approach. "This film taught me that we shouldn't just play our characters as they're written, we should bring them to life. We should add humanity, and we should never compromise our own values." This speech resonated in Hollywood. Young black actors began to see Morgan as a role model, not just for his acting talent, but also for his artistic stance. But the story doesn't end here. Because this experience in driving Miss Daisy also shaped Morgan's subsequent roles in 1989, when he played the role of Rawlins in the film Glory. He showed the same approach again. The character in the script was the traditional wise old man stereotype, but Morgan interpreted this differently. "This man isn't just wise," he said on set. "He's a determined leader who draws strength from his experiences." And he took Rawlins out of being a cliché and made him a real character. This performance also received great acclaim. In 1992, when playing Ned Logan in Unforgiven, he again acted with the same principles in this Western directed by Clint Eastwood. Morgan's character was initially written more passively. "Ned isn't a passive character," Morgan told Eastwood. "He's a man with a strong past who can make his own decisions." Eastwood supported Morgan's vision, and Ned Logan became one of the most impressive characters in the film. 1994 brought The Shawshank Redemption. The character Red, one of the most important roles in Morgan's career. But here too, his initial approach was different. In the script, Red was written as a more depressed, hopeless character. Morgan objected to this approach. "Red isn't hopeless," he told director Frank Darabont. "He's a man who learned to survive, who preserved his inner strength, not depressed, realistic." This approach made the character Red legendary. Morgan's interpretation blended hope and realism. The character became not just a figure in a prison drama, but a symbol representing the power of the human spirit. And here comes Morgan's biggest confession. "Throughout all these years," says Morgan, "I had grown up with a wrong understanding of acting. I thought I had to play characters as they were written. But driving Miss Daisy taught me that the actor's job isn't just to repeat words, it's to give soul to the character, to make them real. And most importantly," he adds, "no character is more important than the actor's own values. If a role conflicts with who you are, you should change that role, or you shouldn't accept it." This confession had a huge impact in the acting world, because Morgan was revealing the secret of his successful career: staying loyal to his own values, his own artistic vision. In 1997, while playing the role of Theodore Judson in Amistad, he discovered something surprising while researching historical facts. The real-life counterpart of the character wasn't as passive as in the script. This man was much more active in history, Morgan told Steven Spielberg. "Why are we keeping him so much in the background in the script?" Spielberg evaluated Morgan's research and strengthened the character. Judson took a much more effective role in the film. This event showed another important quality of Morgan's: researcher spirit. He did in-depth research for every role, understanding the historical or social context of the character. Even in the 2003 comedy film Bruce Almighty, he showed the same approach. When playing the role of God, he said, "This character can be funny, but it can't be worthless." And he interpreted the God character in a funny but respectful way. This performance both made people laugh and think. Morgan's artistic stance affected not just his own career, but the entire industry. Young actors began to take his methods as examples. The foundations of this approach, called the Morgan-Freeman method, are as follows. First rule, research the character in real life, not on paper. Second rule, reject stereotypes, seek humanity. Third rule, never compromise your own values. Fourth rule, show loyalty to the character, not the script. Fifth rule, every role is a learning opportunity. This method began to be taught as a lesson in acting schools. Morgan's approach included not just technical, but also ethical stunts, but Morgan's biggest confession still hadn't come. That truth was experienced in 2005. During the filming of $1 Million Baby, while playing the character Eddie Scrap Iron Dupree, Morgan discovered something one day. The real story of this character was much more tragic than in the script. The real Scrap Iron wasn't just a trainer, but also a failed boxer, a person who had experienced the destruction of his dreams, but masked it with a strong character. Morgan shared this discovery with Clint Eastwood. "We should tell Scrap's full story," he said. "Not just a wasp trainer, but a human being with broken dreams." Eastwood accepted Morgan's suggestion, and they added depth to the character. Scrap became not just a supporting character in the film, but an integral part of the main story. During this work, Morgan made an important discovery about himself, like Scrap. He too had dreamed of great success in acting at a young age. But success hadn't come the way he expected. "In the 1960s, when I was acting on Broadway," says Morgan, "I thought I would become a Hollywood star. But at that time, roles for black actors were very limited. For years, I acted in children's programs on television. On the children's program called Electric Company, he played the character Easy Reader, teaching children to read. At that time, his friends were acting in Hollywood films, while he was on a children's program. Sometimes I got angry with myself," Morgan confesses. "Why wasn't I successful? But then I realized that success isn't just playing big roles. It's being able to touch people, to add value to their lives." This awareness completely changed his understanding of acting. He focused on the meaning of the role rather than the size of the role. In the 1980s, when playing the character Fast Black in the film Street Smart, he applied this new approach. The character started with a small role, but Morgan's interpretation was so powerful that the role was expanded. This performance brought him his first Oscar nomination and made Hollywood notice Morgan Freeman's presence. "That role taught me," says Morgan, "there are no small roles, only small actors. Every character, no matter how little screen time they have, can tell a story." And the 1987 Driving Miss Daisy experience was the result of this accumulation. Morgan now knew who he was, what he stood for, and he acted with this knowledge. "Thanks to that film," he confesses, "I understood that acting isn't just a profession, it's a responsibility, because the characters we play stay in people's minds. They affect how they see the world." This sense of responsibility shaped Morgan's subsequent role choices. He was no longer looking for just good roles, but meaningful roles. The reason he accepted the role of Red in The Shawshank Redemption in 1994 was also this: the character was a representative of hope and goodness. The character Graham Walters in the 2004 film Crash was also important for the same reason. In this film dealing with racism, Morgan was playing a character who questioned prejudices. The role of Carter Chambers in The Bucket List in 2007 was also chosen with similar understanding. It was a character that made people think about old age, friendship, and dreams. But Morgan's deepest confession is about voice dubbing work. When I started being called the voice of God, he says, I was proud at first, but then I realized that this voice is actually the accumulation of years, not just a natural talent. I stuttered as a child, Morgan explains. I had difficulty speaking. That's why I read a lot, became friends with words. I memorized poetry, read texts over and over again. And I realized that voice isn't just vocal cords, experience, knowledge, empathy. All of these are reflected in my voice. This confession also explains his voice choices. From the documentary March of the Penguins to the science program Through the Wormhole, he has always preferred informative, thought-provoking projects. Every project that uses my voice, he says, should teach something, or at least it should make people feel something beautiful. This approach made him not just an actor, but an educator. His voice teaches millions of people about science, nature, history. When working on Nelson Mandela in the 2009 film Invictus, he once again realized how important this stance was. While researching Mandela, says Morgan, I saw that he had gone through a similar journey. He hadn't compromised his own values. He had preserved who he was even under pressure. And I understood that acting isn't just imitation, it's also reflecting the best qualities of humanity. Morgan, who met Mandela personally for this film, says he learned a lot from him. Mandela told me, Morgan recounts, true power is being able to resist pressures that force you to change yourself. If you know who you are and stay loyal to that, that's already a great success. These words summarize Morgan's entire career philosophy. When he played the role of Lucius Fox again in The Dark Knight Rises in 2012, he acted with the same principles, even in superhero films. Lucius Fox is Bruce Wayne's conscience, Morgan explains. When playing this character, I always emphasized ethical concerns, because superhero films also give moral messages. This approach was what made him different. No matter what genre of film it was, he added humanity and values to his character. Even in the 2017 comedy film Going in Style, the same sensitivity was there. When playing the character Willie Davis, he kept themes of old age and friendship in the foreground. Even when doing comedy, says Morgan, you mustn't forget that the character is human. People not only laugh, but also feel, think, hope. And the time for Morgan Freeman's deepest confession has come. In an interview he gave in 2018, when he was 81. The most important thing I learned in my 50-year career is this, Morgan said. Acting didn't change who I was. Who I was shaped my acting. The decision I made on The Driving Miss Daisy set in 1987 wasn't just for that role. It was a decision I made for my entire life. I will be Morgan Freeman, not the person someone else expects. And this decision freed me. Because I was no longer trying to please anyone, I was just trying to be honest. This confession explained his entire career. Why he showed the same sincerity in every role. Why he added a part of his own soul to every character. People call me the voice of God, Morgan continued. But I'm just the voice of Morgan Freeman, and that's enough, because I've fought all the necessary battles to be myself. Young actors ask me for advice, and I always say the same thing. Be yourselves. Nobody else. Because the world already has Morgan Freeman. What it needs is for you to be yourselves. This confession had a huge impact, not just in the acting world, but in the art world in general, because Morgan was revealing the secret of success, authenticity. Even in one of his recent roles in The Poison Rose in 2019, at age 82, he acted with the same principles. He made his character deeper and more meaningful than in the script. Getting older doesn't mean doing fewer roles, says Morgan. It means being more selective, because now you know the value of time. You want every project to be meaningful. And today, in 2024, the message of Morgan Freeman, still active at 87, is clear. Anyone thinking of acting should know this. This profession isn't just about becoming famous. It's about serving humanity through your characters, teaching people something, giving them hope, making them think. And the only way to do this is by being yourself, because fake people can't create real characters. This confession explains why Morgan Freeman is so beloved, not just as an actor, but as a human being, because he is as real in his life as he is in his art. And that brave decision he made on the Driving Miss Daisy, set in 1987, determined not just a role, but a life philosophy. Today, 50 years later, Morgan Freeman still lives with the same principles. And this is his greatest success. Because he's not just a great actor, he's a great human being. And this is the truth that no one knew about the man known as the voice of God. Morgan Freeman's real talent isn't acting, it's being human. And he reflects this talent in his acting. That's why we feel the same sincerity in every role. Because he's not acting, he's sharing himself. And this is perhaps the greatest secret of acting. The greatest performance is not performing, just being yourself. Morgan Freeman learned this 37 years ago. And since that day, he's been acting with this knowledge. This confession isn't just his story. It's every artist's, every human being's story, because we're all struggling to find our own truth. And Morgan Freeman's message is simple. Don't give up this struggle. Because being yourself is the greatest gift you can give both to yourself and to the world. This is the conclusion that 87-year-old Morgan Freeman has drawn from his 50-year career. And this conclusion is not just about acting, but about life.